Okay folks, we're out here in a beautiful setting outside, and I'm going to show you a little bit of the different features on the latest tripod that we have. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is how to get the legs apart. As you can see in here, you might be able to see how those three locks go in there and how those pop apart. And you see how they pop apart like that. What I'm doing is I'm putting my thumb and my forefingers my fingers in between, and my thumbs go apart on each side. So fingers are going in between like that, my thumbs go on each side, and you push your thumbs apart like that to get those legs to pop apart, and it basically just pops apart those three clips. And to get those back together, you're going to want to pull those together and line them up to where they're just about together like that, and just squeeze the tripod together and they pop together. That way it holds those legs together, so you can kind of briefcase this as you're moving from one point to another to glass or whatever. It just kind of gives the legs something to hold together as it's collapsed up. So it's when it's in your pack, it's nice and tight like that. When the legs pop apart like that, there's a locking point in the pivot rotation that locks the legs, so you can kind of see how they're staying put right there. So that first one, there's two of them. So there's one that's out here like that, and there's another one there. So this further one is for if you're at a lower stance, and the closer one that's a little bit more stiff is for when the typical standing scenario. So the legs are at that nice angle to the ground. If you're lower, you're going to want to have it out here a little bit further to where those legs stay out at a little bit more of a stance out, so they're not so close together. So that's how that works. They can kind of stop there and stop there. Now, there's nothing that's keeping the leg from going outward. So when you set this leg up on the ground at this stance here, you can pick it up and move it, and it stays right where those legs are. And the ability to be able to move these in position them is kind of crucial in an environment where it's so your terrain is changing so much. So what that does is it helps you be able to set the tripod up, and those legs aren't flopping in and out. But when you stand it up like that, you can kind of put it in any of these positions. So say you have a log here and you can't put it there, but you can put it there. You can actually adjust the height of it real easy by not having a locking point here to have to deal with. And that it doesn't lock on that outward motion. So what you want to do is make sure that the ground connects that triangle. So the ground is that support. It's not going to go anywhere now, but you just have to make sure it's not sitting on a rock edge or something to where it can kick out. That's one of the dynamics of this tripod, is to have that freedom to be able to move those legs wherever you want them to be. Now you can see how the head gets out of level when you're moving those legs around like this. And that's fine, because most of the panning and tilting style heads that we have can overcome any angle where this head is sitting at. So it does not have to set perfectly flat. Even if you have a V-yoke sitting up on here, it doesn't have to be perfectly flat to lay your gun in there. So those are the initial setup of the tripod to be able to get those legs set up, just to kind of have an idea of how that works for you to be able to move those legs wherever you want them. Next, I'm going to show you how to do the leg lock mechanism. As you can see here on the side of the leg, you have three caps that have like a little knob. These are kind of throw levers that we've added to give you a little bit more grip on the cap portion, so that you can lock it like that. You can grab the tube and lock it on the tube, but you just have to rotate that tube. So to do the lock mechanism in here, it's a simple eighth of a turn. It's not a tightening motion, so you don't keep tightening up. It doesn't matter how tight you turn this, it's not going to get it to lock any tighter. Once it's moved into that position, it's as tight and as hard to lock as you're going to get it. And so that's where it's locked like that. It's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. When these are unlined, you can kind of see how these are misaligned here. When those are misaligned, everything's unlocked. And the tubes themselves have a rib on them too that dictate where you have that. So you can kind of see whether it's unlocked or whether it's locked. They're lined up when it's locked, they're misaligned when it's unlocked. So you can kind of see how those are misaligned. If they're all lined up, then it's locked and it can't come out. So you can pull them out to wherever you want them, and they're not going to move from there, and then you can lock all three. So you can lock all three of them using the shortest tube. So I'll show you how to do that when I set up the tripod. When I break this thing out of my pack and I want to set it up, I'll break it out, I'll pop it apart like this, I'll grab one leg, extend it out all the way, and then tighten them all from the bottom one. Set that one on the ground and grab the next one, extend it out all the way, tighten it from the bottom one, extend the last leg out all the way, tighten it from the bottom one, and now we're locked. And you noticed how I kind of did a little push in on it? That's just to kind of to confirm that the lock mechanism is locked and you've got all three of them locked in place. You can do them individually like this, to where you can grab individually. And to do that, you have to grab top and bottom of that section. If you grab top and bottom here, you don't know which one you unlocked or locked. So you just have to kind of be conscious of that to know that if I want this one unlocked, it's top and bottom of that section. But they can all be locked or unlocked from the last leg. And it's three of them. So what you're doing is it's 1, 2, 3, and you'll kind of feel that when you rotate that, but when that stops, when the bottom one stops, you know that you've locked all three of those legs. So you can unlock them when it stops in the unlock, just stop, let go, and you can push that shut. So again, it's not like a tightening thing. Like some of the tripods that are out there, you have to tighten something up, or a cap you have to tighten up. Some of them have a grip tab thing that you just claps on there. Those mechanisms work great for lighter components and the simplicity of making them. This is an internal lock, so the lock is actually in the tube, not out here. And when you turn this, it locks the position of that lock inside the tube to where it can't go in or out. That's how that works. So when I'm set up like this, then I'm able to move this wherever I want it to be able to get my spotter at the height that I want it to be. I'm standing up here now, I'm 6 foot tall. That's a nice thing about this tripod, is that it's tall enough for you to glass. When I set up to glass, I'm going to set my scope on here now and lock that on there and be able to set up to glass now. And now you're set up at the right height. You can kind of move it around a little bit, and you can set that up to be able to see at the right height. If you have an angled scope, you're going to be down here a little further, and you may even need to shorten up your legs a little bit and then lock them so that you're looking down into your scope. The one thing I don't like about the angled scopes, and I'm going to say this, not against any angled spotter, the whole reason why angled spotters were made is because tripods were never made tall enough to use as a standing scenario. That's why they made them angled. Nobody made a tall tripod. We make the tall tripod now because you have to have it tall to do the quartering method. But what I like about a straight spotter is that when you have that straight spotter set up, your eye is oriented toward the mountain where you're looking. So if I'm looking up here and I'm glassing this spot and I move away and I want to see it with my naked eye, I'm not having to move my head then and reorient. Sometimes it's kind of hard to reorient your surroundings when your head's down like this looking at something and you see the image that's up here, but when you move your head up, it's kind of like, whoa, what happened? So that's what I like about straight spotters. This little spotter here I've had for probably 15 years. It's worked great. It's a Leopold offset spotter. They're mid-range in the market as far as the price, but they've worked great. And what I like about this particular spotter is it goes to 12 power. If you start out at 20 power, more than likely you're going to have a hard time finding what you've just seen with your naked eye. I like to be able to go to that 12 power setting, even though the top end is only 40. Most of the time you don't need to be that in close, depending on where you're hunting. If you're hunting spots where you can drive to where you're getting to in a short period of time, then you can have your bigger spotter that goes to 60 or 80 power to be able to really zoom in and see if it's worth going after that animal. This is a spotter that's set up for kind of backcountry stuff where you're not glassing more than a couple miles away, and you don't, all you need is 40 power to be able to get there, because if you need to see something that's 5 miles away, you're probably not going to make it there in time before that animal's history. So you don't even need to see that far away. So that's what I kind of like about the 12 to 40 for the backcountry scenario. Now if you sit down a lot when you glass, then you can sit down, drop your tripod down. A lot of times you can leave a leg kicked out if you're on a hillside, but we'll drop it down here to get it to the height that we want to be for our sitting scenario. And let's go ahead and make this leg come out here, and we'll make sure this one's all locked up. And now we're at a sitting scenario where we're glassing like this. The one thing with a sitting scenario is if you need to move over here and look, now you have to pick your tripod up and move over this way, but now your body's twisted and you actually have to kind of scoot yourself around. Now if you're sitting on a rock or sitting on your butt, that's not easy to do. For sitting scenario, you're really just glassing one direction when you're sitting down. If you want to move over here and glass, you have to move your whole tripod to do that. And that's the downside, if you want to pardon the pun there, that's the downside to sitting, other than the comfort of it. I like to stand when I'm glassing, but I also like to sit down too, because sometimes it's nice to sit down after you've been on your feet all day and just watch an area. And we'll move it back up to the standing scenario. So we'll extend our legs back out to full height here. Okay, you can see how that lock mechanism works so well. In a standing scenario, when I'm standing up now, we'll get it set up just to the right height. Now I'm glassing this direction, and if I see something over here I want to glass, I can just rotate my body over. Oops, I got to kick this leg over like that. Now I can just kind of kick that leg. You see how I just moved that leg and I didn't have to pull a pin here or anything? It just moved over. And if I want to glass something back this way, boom, you can just move this leg over and move like this, and you just position your body a little bit more. You can kind of keep walking the legs around. You see how I did that? I just walked those legs to change my direction. So you can pick the tripod up, but you can also just walk the legs around and bump them around like that to be able to change direction. You can also pick the whole tripod up and move it around like that. You can move it around like that too. The legs will stay put right where they're at there, you see, to where they won't collapse all the way in. It's a good starting point. Usually you have to go out a little bit more unless you're like 6'6", but that's the good side about this tripod is there's no center post that you extend. It gets real wobbly. It's a full height head conjunction here, so it's a pretty stable setup when you get it locked in here. Everything coming together, and it keeps things a lot more stable than some of the other setups that are out there. So now what we're going to talk about is the rally clip. This is how your tripod is going to come when you get it. You'll have a rally clip somewhat attached up here. So the rally clip usually is attached to some kind of an accessory like this, whether it's here or whether it's another little smaller mount or a V-yoke, or even like one of our tack tables that I'll talk about here in a little bit. But it's usually attached to something, and it's not going to be on your tripod. You're going to take this off, and you're going to have this attached to your spotter like this in your pack somewhere else. You can leave it attached, and some of these spotters allow you to fold it down like this, some of the heads, to be able to get that into your pack and leave it attached in your pack if you want to do it like that. Sometimes I'll do that like that if I have a spotting head like this little Manfrotto here that can go 90 degrees. You can drop your scope to the side completely, and then it's nice and compact, but it's still on the tripod, so you don't have to take the time to lock it back in and just be ready to set your tripod up right out of your pack like this. So that's how the rally clip kind of goes on and off, and I'll give you a little more closer view of the rally clip here. We'll step up here, and I'm going to show you a little close-up of the top. So this is what it looks like on the top when you don't have an accessory on here. So we have 3 pins on top of the head here, these 3 standoffs. Those are on top of the head permanently. and you can kind of see how there's a pocket that the clip goes on there. To get it on, you're going to put your fingers on these points here and rotate it on, and you can kind of see how that rotated on there. And then you can kind of see there's some grip spots here on the side. It requires you to have all three of those pushing in at the same time to rotate it off. You can kind of see how these three little tabs in here kind of push in, and it unlocks that lock tab from the pin underneath, and it unlocks that to be able to come off. So both hands are there to grab your scope when you get it off of there. The rally clip lives on the accessory that you have. So if you want multiple accessories in the field, like a V-yoke or a tack table or another spotter setup, maybe a binocular mount, you're going to want to get more than one of these so that you can have one of these clips on each one. And there's two different kinds of clips. This is the standard clip. This clip is made of all plastic. It has a metal washer in here, a stainless washer with a bolt. As you can see, there's three rubber bumpers that are on the bottom here that make a connection to the head. So that what happens when you rotate this on is it squeezes that clip onto there and pressures down onto the head and creates that resistance pressure there. There is still the ability that can compress, but when you run your spotter, you're running your spotter pan tilt loose enough to where it's not going to move. That's not where it's going to move. It's going to move within the head, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. But that's how the rally clip goes on and off. You lock it on like that, and you take it off, pushing all 3 points. If you try to push on just one, it won't come off of there. Even if you push 2 of them like that, you can kind of see how that third one is holding it on there. You have to push all 3 of them to get that to come off there. So both hands have to be on here to get it. Don't try to crank it on like this with one hand. For one thing, you can't because you have an accessory on here. Don't try to turn your accessory to get it on. Yeah, you use the side of it right here. That's what these little hooks are for, and that's what these little push points are for, is to get that on and off. Now I'm going to show you a little bit different option on the rally clip. This is the 2.0 clip that I have on my spotting setup. Most spotting setups, if you don't glass a lot, you can get away with the standard rally clip on a spotting setup. It works really well for that, and in fact these little rubber bumpers actually absorb some of the wind vibration in your scope. It's proven to me to do that. It probably takes a little bit away. It's not all of it, but it seems like it's less violent of an image in your scope when you have these little rubber pads on here. So I like to use this for your standard spotting setups, but you can, if you're looking for a little bit stiffer setup there, if say you don't like that little bit of movement for whatever reason, maybe you glass really tight with a tight setup like that, you're going to want to get the 2.0 clip. It's a little bit more expensive because it's expensive to make this plate. This is a spring steel plate that's in here. So that's a piece of spring steel, and you can kind of see there's 3 little grooves cut in it. So with the 2.0 clip, you lock it onto the head the same way. You're gonna line it up with those little pockets right there, and it locks on the same way. What happens is that the underside of this, you can kind of see there's a little washer underside there that rubs on the top side of these hooks, and when that hook starts to compress down on there, it compresses this surface to the top of the head, and that spring steel will then flex on there. So it kind of creates like a micro truss, we call it. So it's a triangulated truss effect that happens when you lock this onto there. And it's a really solid setup, so it creates a solid connection between the top of the head and the clip, and of course the clip is bolted solid to the bottom of your accessory. One of those accessories that works really well for the 2.0 clip is our tack table and shooting bag. We call this the top plate tack table, and it has a stuffed filled shooting bag, and we fill that shooting bag with some of the shavings that we make these parts out of. All these parts are machined. They're not injection molded yet. So this whole setup weighs about 1 pound, and we like to use the 2.0 clip on this. It comes with the 2.0 clip. You're able to turn it on that 2.0 clip, but that 2.0 clip allows you to lock in solid so that there's not a lot of movement between this connection and the head. So if we set this up on our spotter here and we lock that in, and now we're set up to where we can lay our gun in here and we can move it this way, we can move it this way. There's a little bit of tension in that connection there, which is adjustable, but you can lay your gun in here and have a nice shooting bag set up that lays in here, and it's a solid setup to be able to take a shot from. Now normally when you're standing up, you're probably not going to shoot more than 300 yards in a standing position without additional support on you, whether it's another stick under the back of your gun, or some guys go down on and use a bipod and use the leg of the tripod. You can still do that with this tripod, but for the most part, this is how the tack table works. It has a side mount right here so that you can mount an accessory like a rangefinder or a cell phone mount. That little side mount is a 1/4 so you can put a bolt in it to put a stud, to make a stud on the top to be able to thread on any accessory, but you can have a mount both ways. We leave it with a threaded insert so you can mount underneath or above instead of just one way or the other. So you could actually have a mount above for a spotter, an extra little spotter, or a camera, when you can put a rangefinder below it. It's just a tack table mount, so you can have an accessory on each side. The bag is removable off of the top of the plate. You can unhook it off of here and remove it from these bungees right here. They unhook. Sometimes you need a little pick to get it on and off of there, but you can get this bag off of here if you want to use a different bag, or if you just want to use the plate itself for anything, you can do it like that. I'll show you one thing up close. There's a stud underneath there that sticks up out of there, so you can take the bag off and you can actually thread on another spotter on top of the tack table and put the bag on the bench to use at a shooting range, so you can have the spotter on your tack table with your rangefinder, and then you can use the bag for your shooting bench. So another accessory that we sell is a V-yoke. This is a common setup for shooting, and the V-yoke comes with a standard rally clip. You don't need the 2.0 rally clip for the V-yoke because you're really not putting any pressure on this. This is just a simple rest for your gun. The V-yoke can spin like this. It has the ability to twist on top of there. When you tighten that back down on there, it tightens on there tight. So when you buy one of these, you get another rally clip, a standard rally clip with it. It works the same going on and off, to where you line it up like this and you clip it, and now you have your V-yoke on here where you can spin this around, lock it in, lay your gun in here and shoot. And that's a common setup, very common setup. So if you're looking for a V-yoke to go with your tripod, check out the V-yoke on the accessories page or the peripherals page on the website, and you'll be able to find these and add it to your cart if you're looking for that. Same thing with the tack table. You can look at the tack table on the website a little bit more, get a little more detail on that. It's under the top plate tack table page on the website. One of the other cool features with this tripod is that you can actually take any of the legs off to use as a trekking pole. They go on and off pretty simple like that. So you can actually take this whole thing apart to where it's down to just the head, but you can take all three legs off like this to use as trekking poles. Even if you have 3 guys, you can then, each one of you can have a trekking pole, or I like to have 2 trekking poles when I'm packing out with a heavy load, but you pop all of them off like that. And how that goes on there, you can kind of see how there's a carbon pin right here, and there's a notch in this head. You can kind of see the groove in that. And the way you get that back on there is you line that up, put it on from underneath. Don't go from the top side because it's be backwards, right? So you go from underneath here. Make sure you get that seated up to where it's straight in there, and you rotate it down and it pops back on there. Just grab a hold of the head and rotate it on. Now when you have one leg on there, you have a little bit more leverage to get the next one on. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to hook it back up on there. I'm going to make sure it's up in there. Sometimes putting your thumb on top like this works real well to kind of square it up. Rotate it down until you kind of bind it, and then just keep rotating and it'll pop right back on there. So it comes off just like this, where you back it up against the head. You'll have the rally clip off, pop it off like that. It goes back on the same way like that. Hook it in there, make sure it's on there straight. You don't want to hook it in crooked, so make sure you get it all the way on. Don't be in a hurry and just barely clip it, because you're going to break this off. It's happened before. Make sure you're always up in there like that before you start to put the pressure on. You can kind of look at it and see that that pin is lined up in there, and pop it back on. And then the last leg goes on the same way, and they pop on, and now you got your complete tripod. When you have the leg off, if you use trekking poles a lot, we sell them with a grip. This grip is a foam grip, and if you specify that and order one with the grip on the website, you'll come with grips. If you want grips later, we do sell these individually as packs of 3, so that you can put them on yourself. It has a little installation tool that we send with you, a little plastic thing that helps you get it onto there. But once it's on there pretty good. It works really well for using these as a trekking pole. When you do use it as a trekking pole, I like to adjust the smallest tube all the way up in, or make it as short as possible. Extend the 2 larger tubes, get it where you want it, because we don't want this smaller tube to be out here. And if we get it caught between 2 sticks or rocks or something and you trip, it is going to be obviously more susceptible to bend, having more leverage on it. So just have that, if you're going to use it as a trekking pole, have it as short as possible, if not all the way up in there, but make sure you lock it when it's in there. It's a really tight setup. It's a nice walking stick, works really well, and we do sell a wrist strap with it. These come in black or blaze orange, and I'll show you the blaze orange one so you can see it really well. But this, to put this onto this head, you can kind of see there's a little rubber band on here. It's a piece of shrink tube tape that's stuck on there. And you hook it into the head like this, and take this adjuster and slide it up to the back. You put your hand in there, and now you're set up. Now if this is a little bit loose because I don't have a glove on, if you have a glove on, this is going to be about perfect. But if you don't have a glove on, then you're going to want to do a couple of twists like this, and it'll tighten this connection up a little bit, and now you'll have a nice bond here to where you don't have to be gripping this so hard all the time when you're using it. I'll do one more wrap there to tighten it up a little bit tighter, and that'll be pretty comfortable for the day for me to be able to use this as a trekking pole. To get that off, you simply just pop that off of there, and it comes right off your hand, and you throw that in your pack. So again, we sell those in black or blaze orange. It's the same one, black or blaze orange, and they work really well if you use trekking poles a lot. And they come in a set of 2. You get 2 of them, so you get 1 for each hand if you use double poles. Double poles work really well for if you have a heavy load, and I don't care how old you are. If you're young and invincible and you think you can pack a 200-pound pack off the mountain, that's great. More power to you. I would highly suggest using 2 poles, because you're inherently going to be out of stable, all that weight up here high. It really helps to have 2 legs, for sure 1, so that you can kind of catch yourself if you do slip on a rock or something. They're so handy to have, and that's why we made this tripod like this, to be able to take the legs off. You're going to have this with you. That means you're going to have 3 trekking poles with you, and you're going to have all that with you in the field, so you can pop this off. You can still use this without a grip, for sure. If you don't use trekking poles a lot, but you want to pack out with your tripod legs, man, break them things out and use them. It works really well. I like to use it like this too for a side hill. You can kind of put your hand on top of the little ball head like this and side hill like this. It works really well for that. I'm going to show you another little head here. This is a head that actually has Dyneema rope. That's another option. We sell it with paracord as standard, but you can upgrade to some Dyneema rope. It's kind of a cut resistant rope. It's a little bit more, it's like a $12 upgrade, but it works pretty well. It's a little easier to clean too when you clean the rope. And we'll show you how to clean the rope in another segment some other time. So what I want to talk about now is we'll set this tripod up, and I'm going to talk about the side mount feature that we have on the head. So we'll get this set up. So now we're set up to glass like this. I'm going to lock in my spotter head here. Let's get this on here. What I want to talk to you about now on this head is you can kind of see that on the side of these, there's a threaded insert on all three sides of this head. So what that allowed us to do is to be able to mount different mounts to the side of the head of the tripod. So this is just a little ball mount that you can buy online. They're readily available anywhere online, really. And you mount like that up there, and you can mount like a little monocular to the side mount of your head. So you can have your standard spotter set up, and then you can mount a side mount on here. And I'll show you how this works well for glassing in the field. You can also have a spotter set up, another spotter set up on the side. You can have a wind speed indicator. You can also have a rangefinder set up just by accessorizing with some of these little ball heads that are available out there. This is an M5 thread, so you do have to have an adapter to go from M5 to quarter 20. Usually these accessories have a quarter 20 thread. That's pretty standard in the industry. Another standard camera photography mount is the M5 thread. So that's what we put in here. It's all the room we had in there to do was an M5 thread. So if you want to do this, then you're going to want to get an adapter like this. We do sell these on the peripherals page of the website. It's a little adapter that goes from M5 to quarter 20 to be able to put onto one of your accessories. So look that up if you're interested in this. So what we're going to do is I'll show you how I like to mount this up on here. I like to kind of have the mount separate from the accessory first, because it's kind of easier to get it threaded in there. But what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of thread it on this left hand side, because I'm right-handed. I have my handle on the right side. If I see a deer out there or an animal that I want to keep an eye on in a certain direction, I can set this up by threading this side mount in here, and you just thread that right in there. And you can leave this on the head like this. If you do this a lot, you'll just leave this little guy on the head, and it'll just stay there. You can put a rangefinder on the side of this. You can put a cell phone mount to videotape while you take a shot even. It's kind of a cool setup like that if you have time to set it all up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up over here kind of on the left-hand side of my whole setup here. So say I got a buck bedded out there that I want to keep an eye on. I'm going to go ahead and thread on my monocular here. We'll get that tightened up on there and kind of snug everything up. I'm going to pull my caps, and I'm going to take and get him lined up in the scope. So let's just say we got this set up here, and I've got him glassed up, and I spot him here, and I can say, okay, I want to look at that buck, and I want to also look at others. So we're going to look at him. I'm going to line this up and be able to get him in the scope. And again, it's kind of the orientation of the same thing, the same area. And okay, there he is. I'm going to lock it in on him. And now I can be free to move this. As long as I don't move the tripod, I can move around here, and I can glass for other animals. Even if I have to step over the top of this this leg here to glass this direction, I can still glass this direction over here and see other animals while this is kind of paying attention. Now, if I want to go back and look at that guy, all I have to do is go back in here and say, oh yeah, he's still there. So let's say I want to watch a deer over here. I'm going to lock in on this one, and we got one down here, and everything's out of the way there, so I can see that one, and I can watch this one at the same time. So we're just watching different areas. You can watch two or maybe even three. You can set a whole nother one up. If you have another one over here, you can watch one over here and kind of watch where they go. You can kind of still move these around. It's a little tight on here. Sometimes you can get different accessories, a little bit different ball heads like this, but these little ball heads work good to mount to the side of that mount and be able to have another spotter accessory on the side of your head like this. It works really well to do that. Just as a kind of a placekeeper to look at that animal and still be able to glass for more in different areas, and it's still kind of right there to where you can just jump back in it and check to see if that animal's still bedded there. If it's moved, bang, you can jump back in here and have that orientation of angle figured out to where you can jump back in and glass them again. Okay, so now we're going to talk about deploying the rope and using the rope for different things. Most of the time the rope's going to be stowed away on the head like this during your whole hunt. It's really only used for a couple of different things, 3 different things that I've used it before. The first thing you can use it for, obviously, is for when you're ready to quarter your animal. You're going to want to set it up and use the rope, obviously. The other couple things that you can use it for is for glassing in the wind. You can deploy the rope and set it up to kind of give you a little bit of weight. You can hang your backpack from it. You can, if you're sitting down on the ground, you can wrap it around your leg to be able to stabilize a little bit more, and it kind of makes a heavy tripod. It actually makes the heaviest tripod on the market if you add that weight, okay? So if you're shooting from it, there's a couple things you can do when you're shooting. You can also, if you need a little more weight on your tripod, you need to add some weight to it, hang your pack from that rope. The other thing you can do is hook the hook end. You can actually hook that hook end up to the gun and lock it and create a triangular effect if you wanted to take time to set up to do that. And I'll show you a little bit of that in another video some other time. For right now, we're going to deploy the rope as if we have an animal down and we're going to get ready to quarter that thing. You'll set the tripod up like this over the top of the animal, and basically I like to start over the front or the rear, it doesn't really matter, and you can look at some of my other videos on how to do the quartering method with an actual animal. We're going to kind of pretend there's one here today, and I'm going to just show you how to deploy the rope. You can kind of see how there's these little loops underneath here that kind of hold the rope under there. You just pull on those and you'll notice there's kind of these little plastic pins that came out of the holes in the bottom of the head. I'm going to show you those holes here and how that looks. We're going to use this one with the Dyneema rope now, and you can kind of see it looks like kind of a mess under here, but that's what you're doing, is you're just basically pulling those pins out of these holes. You can kind of see there's 3 holes in the bottom, and you're just basically pushing those pins back up in those holes when you set the rope back in. And I'll show you how to do that when we get to winding that rope back up. But you're pulling those out, and there's one last pin here that kind of has a little bit of grip on it. It doesn't slide as freely as some of the other ones, and that's there to hold that hook up against the head like that, so it's not hanging down and kind of dinging against the side of the tubes. Sometimes you want to just have that sucked up tight. So you can kind of see how that's sucked up tight there using the last wrap on the rope here to get that to come undone. But we're going to show you that on the head here now. So I've pulled these out, and I'm going to pull this last pin out of that little hook, and it kind of just starts to come apart pretty easy. So you just pull this loose like this. It just unwinds off of that spool, and it unwinds off the next one. And you just kind of got to unwind each one. Sometimes you can kind of pull on it like that really fast, and it can kind of come off of there rather quickly if you do it just right. So now we have the tail pulled all the way loose, and you should be able to just grab the hook and pull it down and pull it through the head like that, and you're going to go down and you're going to wrap it around the foot of the animal. We're just going to use my foot for now to kind of give an example of some weight. So you kind of want to have some weight hanging here if you're going to practice with this lock mechanism. So we're going to pick up that weight straight up, and you're pulling straight down, and when you have weight on here and then you have the tension on the tail, you let go of the weight first, and you can see I'm still holding the tail here, but all my weight is on here now. And now we're going to let go of that tail, and it locks. If I want to unlock this, you lift up on the weight, pull on the tail a little bit, then let go of the tail, and then you can pull that weight back through. Okay, so that's how it unlocks. You're lifting straight up, let go of the weight first, then let go of the tail, and it locks. So when you have that quarter pulled up here, and you have that quarter up here hanging, and you put your game bag on it, you grab that quarter, and you lift it up like this, and you pull the tail a little bit, and that freed that pin up inside there, the lock mechanism, and now you'll be able to pull that weight back through, and then it unhooks off of the leg. and you can walk over and set your quarter down. You can take another lap link like this and make a short loop like that with a piece of paracord. You can build this yourself because you can buy these lap links at the hardware store. It's a simple chain lap link, as you can see. So you can build one of these, or you can buy one on the peripherals page. We have this extra lap link cord setup to use this as a block and tackle. Now unfortunately I did not get one with me today to do this video, but we're going to show you how that works really quick. So if you have a hard time lifting up that heavy quarter, say you're on a hillside, and I've been there before where you're on a steep hillside and you just cannot get the arm pressure by yourself to get that thing lifted up and pulling at the same time. So what you do then is get that thing ready to lift off the animal, but before you do that, unhook it, pull the hook all the way up to the head like this, and it'll pull up tight like that, okay? Take that extra lap link and loop it around the knee or the hock of the leg, and then that extra lap link will be hooked onto the quarter. You'll take the tail, and we're going to pretend my finger is that lap link. We take the tail and you hook it through one of those hooks, and you bring it back up and hook it through one of these hooks, and you're going to go back down and hook it through the other hook on that lap link, and now you're able to pull up, you see, and I've now tripled my strength on this cord. So now I'm actually, if this is an 80-pound quarter hanging here, I'm only actually holding about 25 or 30 pounds of that by this cord right here. So now you can just kind of lift that up, you see, and it just slides through the double link like that. My finger's kind of acting as the double hook. Let's just try to do it like that. We got a double hook there, and now we're lifting that up. You can kind of see how that works, is you're creating a block and tackle as you lift that up, and you use that other lap link for that. And when you lift that up like that, you're going to lift it up and you're going to hold this, so you have to still hold on to this. You're not using the lock mechanism inside the head anymore. What you're going to have to do, when you pull that all the way up and you got it up off of there, you're going to want to wrap it around one of these standoffs and lock it in there. And I want to show you what that looks like. What I did there is I took the tail, and as I'm holding that weight up, all I did was wrap it around the top of that and pulled it down into that little groove right there, and it locked that in. And that's another good purpose for that standoff right there, to use that to secure the rope. If you do it like this, you're not going to be using the lock mechanism in the head anymore, so you're going to have to, again, you're going to have to get that to stay put on there. When you lift up, you're holding weight here still, so you're going to hold on to that weight, and you're going to wrap it around the top of that and lock it into the top of that, and then that weight then is hanging from that right there. So now I'm kind of pretty much hanging a lot of my body weight off of that doubled up rope right there. And then you can put your game bag on or wrap it up, whatever you do. You can debone it like that too. Works really well too. So now I'm going to show you how to wind the rope back up on the head. And it's pretty simple to do. You pull the hook up tight to the head like this, pull across to the side that doesn't have that lock mechanism in it, and you're going to do 7 wraps. So what you're doing is 7, 7, and 7. And so it's 7 wraps here, 7 wraps here, and 7 wraps here. So we're going to start it coming across, and you're going to do 1, 2, 3, pull it tight, 4, 5, pull it tight, 6, and 7. And on that 7th wrap, you're going to kind of want to make sure that you have it kind of tucked in like that, so it's not right on the very edge. Then you're going to come back across underneath, and you're going to go 1, 2, 3, pull it tight, 4, 5, pull it tight, 6, and 7, and you're going to give it a snug tight, keep it snug like that, and you're going to come across to this last one, and you're going to go 1, 2, 3, pull it tight, 4, 5, pull it tight, and then you're going to go 6. Then you're going to grab the hook on that 6th wrap and pull one of those hooks up. You see how I kind of grab that hook and you hook it onto one of them, pull it up, and make that 7th wrap. That 7th wrap then would go back through the bottom hook for the other hook, and then you pull this first pin up, and it kind of just sits in the hook there, and it keeps that tight. This first pin kind of has a little sticky, it's a little stickier on the cord, so it doesn't slide as easily. So you just kind of push that up there and get it to kind of set into the bottom part of that hook, and it'll kind of keep that tight. Then you take these last two pins and you pull the first one up about halfway, and you'll kind of double it up and push it up into one of those pockets underneath. And then you take the last one and push it up into the last pocket there, and it kind of grip enough to hold that rope under there, and it kind of builds those little loops that you can pull on then to deploy the rope, unhook it from the hook, and you're away you go. And I'll show you how to wind it back up a little closer here. So we'll unwind it like this, and what you're doing is you're kind of pulling it off of that spool, just basically unwinding it. There's no tricks to that. You can just kind of pop it like that and unwinds a little bit. You can kind of pop it, you see. But you're always going to have to kind of unwind it like that. But once you deployed the rope, you're pulling that through, pull the hook all the way up, pull that hook all the way up tight. And again, you don't want to start right here. You want to kind of come across and build your loops up. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The Dyneema rope stacks up a little bit tighter than the paracord. You'll notice that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And you pull it tight. 1, 2, 3, tight. 4, 5, pull it tight. 6, grab the hook. 7, put it through the bottom part of the hook. Slide that first pin up just to where it kind of catches in that hook, and that kind of keeps it snug on there. Then the last two pins you see are going in here and going in to there. And that's how you build that up. So they're ready to deploy. They kind of get stuck in there. They kind of have a little bit of grip against the other cord that's in there. Sometimes you can work it in a little tighter, but they're ready to kind of pop out of there to deploy the rope. So you kind of slide this one up about halfway, double it up. It pushes up in one of those holes, and this one pushes up in the other hole, and it kind of hangs there ready to deploy out. I think I've pretty much covered everything, guys. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to look up the contact page on the website, and just that goes direct to my email, and I'll answer it within 2 or 3 days at the most. So I usually try to get back to those guys really quick. If you have any questions at all, if you have any hunting questions at all to talk about, I've been an elk hunting guide for about 25 years. So I do have a little bit of education in the field regarding that. So if you have any questions about elk hunting or big game hunting in general, hit me up on the email, and I'll try to give you my best on that. But otherwise, have a blessed day, folks, and onward and upward. Stay tuned.